So today is Pi Day, 3.14, March 14th, but it's also the day we learn about E, and it just fits in perfectly with what we've been doing. E is about 2.718 blah, blah, blah. It goes on forever, just like pi is 3.14, and it goes on forever. That's just a rounding, right? Now, there's a button on your on a graphing calculator for E. Now, a lot of you guys don't have one of those graphing calculators, and so we're going to be okay with you abbreviating it to just 2.718. Okay, so I'm going to write that down. It's okay to have that as not a number you have to memorize, but it goes on. It's just important for you to know that's not exactly what it is. Now, where in the heck did we get this E thing from? All right, I'm going to remind you that yesterday I taught you something like, let's say you had $1 and you made it grow by, let's say, 4%, but you compounded it 12 times a year, that'd be monthly, and then this would be the years times that same 12, and let's say you did it for 5 years, you'd put a 5 there. Do you remember doing these yesterday? So if you compound it 12 times a year, that's going to give you a tiny bit more than if you only did it once a year. It's like you stop 12 times a year and say, how much interest do I owe you now? And you figure it out and you give it to the person, and that allows it to compound a little more. So if you go to 365 days a year, then when you do your compounding, you get the most you can when it comes to days, but you could actually compound it every minute. Does anybody happen to know from the song In Rent how many minutes there are in a year? 525,600 minutes. So my point is that you have 525,600. You could compound this as many as every minute. You could compound every second. But if you compound it what's called continuously, that's what happens in your body when you've got these microbes inside of you or on your skin, and they can grow. They don't have to wait till every 1 second and then grow. They can compound continuously, all the time. And so when you get to continuously, you'd use this formula. A equals, P times E to the RT. PERT. Now, in this class, at this level, we don't make you memorize this formula. So you'll just have this formula at the top of the test, and you'll need to know when to use it. The time you use it is if they say the word continuously. So if they're compounding not daily, monthly, by the minute, if they're compounding continuously, E becomes your key. All right. So if I take a principal amount, let's say $1,000, or maybe even just $1. Let's say just $1. $1 times E to the RT. The cool thing about this formula is look at how simple it is. You got your rate here, you got your time here, and you don't have to worry about that other pesky, how many times a year are you doing it. That whole variable just drops out. And I just need to know what rate we're getting and what amount of time we do it for. Okay, so if I've got something that's growing at 4%, 1e to the 0.04, then I just need to know the amount of time. And the amount of time, let's say we have that doing that for 20 minutes. Now this brings up an important point. If you do this in minutes, you've got to know that your rate is in minutes. It needs to get here on time, youngsters. It's going to trigger the email home. All right, so 0.04 times 20. If that 20 minutes matches up with this rate, which was in minutes, then you're good. They just can't be like, if this is a rate per year and then I put in 20 minutes, that wouldn't make any sense. You want them to go together. So if this is a rate per minute, then this needs to be in minutes. All right, so this formula, put the principal amount, which remember is like your starting amount here, put your rate here, put your time here, and then E does all the work. Then my final answer, if I wanted to actually get this here, would be E to the 0.04 times 20. Now, I could hope that you remember that that's 2.718, and I did write it on the board, but if you don't have a calculator that's got an E button, you'll have to use 2.718. So if you happen to have the calculator button, it's above the divide key on one of those big fancy graphing calculators, or you just use 2.718. So would you take a second and actually get this answer? Remember, this is a power. I would put this in parentheses. It doesn't always need to put in parentheses, but frankly, it depends on the calculator. So if you have it in parentheses, it'll never hurt. All right, take a second, multiply that out, and let's see that answer. And then I think you'll see that today is really easy. If you just know the PERT formula, you can stick in the rate and the time and the amount in front, and it's like, boom, done. All right, I can't encourage you enough to be actually putting this in on the calculator, because in a second I'm going to ask you to compare with the kid next to you. If you haven't done it, I'm going to ask you to go back and do it. Give it type 10, please. All right, these two rows, I want you to compare straight across and see if your decimal's the same as theirs. These two rows, compare straight across. Would you three please compare? You two, you two, and you two. Compare answers. Compare what you did.
How did you
All right. Now, there's this really better way I could have showed you how E comes, but what I've tried to show you is that it's the ultimate in compounding, even be it better than minutes in a day. It's compounding every single second. So try to connect the word continuously with E. It even rhymes a little bit. Although, ironically, the word continuously does not have an E in it. Anyway, continuously goes with E. And you should have got about 2.22. So your 1 turned into 2.22. All right, now I'm going to give you a real world problem. Exactly the same formula. A equals P times E to the RT. And I'm going to say you have found a bank that just wants to appeal to math nerds. And so they say, we compound continuously. Well, I need to use this formula. And they're going to give you 12% on your bond that you're buying from them. I hope you know where to put that. So I'd write out the formula and start replacing it with the numbers I tell you. 12% rate. And you're going to hold that for a long time because you're like, that's a really good rate. I want to keep a 10-year hold on that thing. So you're going to do it for 10 years. And all you need to know then is how much money did you put in. If I could get 12%, that's an awesome rate. I would put it in there for a long time, and I put it in a lot. So we're going to say $10,000. And now you should know all the numbers. Please put them in. Actually, write them down on your iPad. I'll review for you. We're taking $10,000. We're getting 12%. We're doing it for 10 years. Now,
$10,000?
$10,000. I do not on purpose want to put them in the right spots. I want you to do that.
How much years?
12%, 10 years. And if you don't know what E is, you haven't been listening, but it is written on the board. All right, now the setup should have been a 1,000 times. I would put this in parentheses. It's not required, but putting parentheses sort of will help it keep organized. And then you'll need to the power of parenthesis around this too. If you find yours is wrong compared to your neighbor's, I would recommend that you put your power here in a parentheses, because it depending on the calculator you use, you might have to have that. Did you use 0.12? I hope so. All right. Please compare your answer with the kid next to you. See if you got the same thing. I should have 10,000. I forgot a zero in my 1,000 here. Make sure you didn't copy me on that. 10,000 is how much we had to start with. I'm so sorry. Should put a comma in there so I catch that. All right. 10,000 times 2.718. Is that as good as the E button? Not quite, because it's an estimate. It's like pi. Pi really is 3.14159265358979323844626. And it keeps going on beyond that. But my daughter actually memorized it to 100 places. Not that we were a nerdy family or anything. It was actually because one of her teachers offered her extra credit if she'd memorize it to 100 places, so she did. I asked her the other day, and she's like lost a few pieces, but she's got strings of it still in her head. So if you take this times this, which is an approximation of E, and then I could do this in my head. When I times 0.12 by 10, it would be 1.2. That would be a way to do it, part of it in your head. What was your final answer? Oh, let's see. Who haven't I picked on in a while? Dessa, what did you get for your answer? 201. Can anybody verify that? Raise your hand if you got the same thing. All right. Good.
Why is there a 10 in the second parenthesis?
This is the 10 years. Remember how that we got a rate and we got a time? So we've got the rate is 12%, we got the time. I did reverse their order, but you have to have the time up there. The 10 years, that has to go up there. All right. Okay. Question? Which part did, oh, you mean like the answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got the 33,000, but then I got 197.
All right. So my bet is that either you did you actually type in 2.718?
Yes.
Okay. Then I would challenge you to go back and do it with the parentheses
I
here.
did it with the parentheses.
And, oh, really?
It's because like if I was to use E,
Oh, so if you actually use E versus 2.718?
yeah,
Ah, okay. What do you get if you actually use E?
yeah, 201. And then if you don't use E, you get 197.
33,197. Ooh, cool. And that makes sense. This is not actually E. It's close. So on the test, I'm going to have to adjust and have both answers available to me on the test. Like, because I can't mark a kid wrong that just doesn't have the E button. And I can't make them memorize it to like 10 places. So I'll have to accept both of those answers. Thank you very much for noticing what was going on there. All right. And then some of your problems are just ludicrously easy. They'll be like, what's E to the 0? And then some people's brains lock up and they're like, I don't know what's going on. But it's just anything to the 0, which is what? 1. How about E to the negative 1? What does that do again? What do you think it is? Yes?
1 over 2.7.
Yeah, 1 over E or 1 over 2.718. Yeah. That's what to the negative 1 power means, is 1 over it. So if I had 9 and I put it to the negative 1, it's just 1/9. You put 1 over the number. Now, when it's a fraction, which this is not, but if it was, I just want to tell you, fractions are a little stranger. When you put them to the negative 1, they just flip. But I thought you said you put 1 over. You actually do. I'll just show you. It's 1 over 2/3, which then turns into flip and multiply. You remember that deal? Instead of divide, you multiply, and then you flip it, and then you get 3 over 2. All right. So -1 power is going to come up on your homework. What if you said do e to the second? Then just do 2.718 to the second. That's all. Now, I do have to make sure that my Schoology quiz has both the version where you use the E button in there, which will be slightly different, and the version where you use 2.718. All right. So I want you to see how much difference there is. So everybody that's using the E button, keep using the E button. Everybody that uses 2.718, do it that way. But everybody, please get this answer. Just do it the way you do it. Because some of you have the E button, some of you don't. And I want you to see the difference. And then I got to make sure to go through the Schoology quiz. Because I think that they assumed that everybody had a graphing calculator, which is kind of dumb because I know that you don't. So. All right. Here are the dice of destiny want me to call on. Boy, this big die comes up 6 a lot. Oh my gosh, this is one of my... I just noticed this. This is crazy. This is one of my trick dice and never even noticed it. I'm like, man, 6 comes up a lot. And then row 2 is coming up, but it was just random enough that I'm like, it's a trick die. It's got a 6 and a 2 on it. So this is supposed to be for the row. I've been doing that for so long. Like, boy, row 6 just keeps getting called on. All right, fine. I'll just randomly pick somebody. Maeve, what's E squared?
I got 7.3890.
Did you use the E button or 2.718?
I used the E button.
All right. Who used 2.718? Yes, Jackson.
I got 7.3875.
Good enough. Awesome. Now, one thing you gotta make sure you understand is rounding. If we go to 2 decimal places, which is what we usually do, because it works for money also, I think this is the best way to teach it. You either you box in 2 decimal places, and then you just decide, is it gonna be that or is it gonna go up? Some people hear round down and they think that this number actually goes down. It never goes down. The number at the end, the 8, that never will go down. It's either that or it goes up 1. So this number, is that big enough? Both of them are big enough. They just have to be 5 or bigger. They're both big enough to round up. So then I like to think of it as, instead of 38, 39. You could just say 8 turns into a 9. Yeah, but when you're at 39 and you wanted to round up, that's when people really get confused. Like if it was already 39 and then you got a number that says to round up, then you got to think of it as a 40. Because going up from 39 goes to 40. All right. So make sure you round correctly. It will be marked wrong, and it should be. You got to know how to round. You're old enough now. The rounding has got to be like an automatic. I know how to do that. So just to make sure that really is, please write that answer to 2 decimal places. Round this properly to 2 decimal places. Ash, what do you get?
6.47,
You got it. Why isn't it 4.8?
because it's less than 5.
What is?
The number after.
Yeah, the number after where we were was too small. If it was bigger, we'd have rounded it up. If we went to a 5 or 6 or 7, 8 or 9, then we'd have rounded this up. But we didn't. Okay. All right. Then let's get to the Schoology quiz. I think you're ready for it. Everybody find the Schoology quiz. You're going to have more time than usual to work on it. I get to do something fun at the end of the hour. Bye. In my first hour, so I kind of have to make my mistakes in your hour, so the pi day thing might not go perfect, but that's okay. Riley is absent. Let's see who else is absent. Looks like Ford is absent. And one more right there, which is Sasek is absent. That's it. All right, by now you should be in there in the Schoology quiz. Kennedy, be prepared to read me the first one in a second. You're gonna read me the first question of the Schoology quiz. I'm looking to see if this one is one of the ones I have to worry about on rounding, and it's not. Okay, so I see it says y equals 3 to the x, Mr. Kennedy. What am I supposed to do with that? Kyle, what am I supposed to do with that? What's the point of the question? This is question 1 of the Schoology quiz. Are you there yet?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm just.
Okay. What does the question say to do?
Find out if it's a growth or decay.
Ah, okay. Look right there. What's your guess?
Growth.
Yep. If that would have been a decimal, it would have been decay. Pretty simple. All right, let's do 1, 2, skip a few because these are pretty easy here for a bit. Let's get to number 4. That's the first time where maybe if you do it with E and with 2.718, where you might get a different answer. I need to know because I gotta add the other answer. So everybody please do E to the 12th, either with the E button or with 2.718. Jake, what'd you get? All right, 162,754.79, right? Did anybody get a different answer than that? Oh, so no matter which way we do it, it's coming out the same way. Okay, awesome. Oh, that's easy. I don't have to add an answer then.
Sorry, wait, what did you say?
162,754.79. Did you get the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it does depend on the type of question, whether or not you use E button versus 2.718. Maybe there'll be a slight difference, but I promise you on the test, I won't penalize you for not having an E button. All right. Let's do number 7, which is the first real world problem. Let's play 1, 2, skip a few. Go to problem 7. And it's amount equals pert. Jackson, what is the 7,500 here? Is it the P, the E, the R, or the T?
It's the P.
Yep. So 7,500 goes there. And then you all know what E is. What's the rate, Jackson? Be careful when you tell me. What should I'm going to say it this way. What should I put for the rate?
0.045.
Perfect. And then the time is 8 years. That's easy. I'm not going to ask anybody that one. And then if you can put this in your calculator properly, again, I'd like everybody to do it your way. If you're using the E button, keep using it. If you're doing 2.718, do it. Because if there's 2 different answers, I want to fix this. Remember that I put this exponent in parentheses to guarantee that the calculator won't goon me on that. All right. Olivia Esch, what'd you get on this one?
My calculator's kind of weird because it never gives me like what other people say.
Okay.
I don't really know.
My guess is that you should start using the 2.718 and that you have to have the parentheses exactly how I showed it right here. I don't know a calculator alive that won't tell you that. So try it exactly as I have it on the board with the parentheses as I have them. And you don't even have to put a time sign in if you have parentheses like that. And let's see if you get it right. I'll ask somebody else to read it. Mason, what'd you get on this one?
I got I got 10,000.
Can you just read me the digits? That's so confusing to try to say it properly. 10.
For the digits, 10749. .97.
That is correct. Now, is there a different version if you use 2.718 or the E button?
If you use E, I got 274486.
I think that can't be right. Here's why. If you're using E, there's no way it would start by being like double as big. So I think you may have typed it wrong. Yeah, like, try it again with 7,500 times E to the, and then maybe you need these parentheses on your calculator. Because it should be really close. Like, the only thing that should be different would be the ending. Did anybody get for a different ending? Yes?
Yeah, when I used 2.718, I got .56.
At the end?
Yeah, it got up to .57 at the end.
Can anybody verify they got the same thing? Ah, multiple people agreeing. Awesome. There's one where I needed to know. Thank you. I'll add that answer. I'm also going to go back and put in answers that I'm just going to ask you, please don't put in commas. Okay? Please don't put in commas. Because right now the answers in here have no commas. 10749.57 is an alternate correct answer. Okay, I think you got the idea. If you need help, you can ask me, but I want to do something kind of fun for Pi Day. That'll be the end of the video, though.